Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop, Emerald Planet. All the ecology news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's your host, Executive Director of the Emerald Planet, Dr. Sam Lee Hancock.
Hello, and welcome to Emerald Planet. I am not Dr. Sam Hancock. My name is William Busker, and I'm Executive Vice President for Emerald Planet, and sitting in our studio in suburban Washington. Dr. Sam is in Tanzania and has a show lined up with one of the outstanding organizations in that country called Sheena. But we've lost transmission, so I'm here with one of Sheena's board members, Lisa Polgar. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you very much.
And we're going to talk about Sheena with the hope that Dr. Sam will be able to join us later. Hello again, and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, Bill. I'm very glad to be on your show, or on Sam's show. We miss him today. I know that he's in Tanzania, enjoying the beautiful weather over there with members of our organization. I serve on the board of directors. My name is Lisa McFerrin Polgar, and I'm a board member of Sheena Inc. And our friend Dr. Sam is in Tanzania to support Sheena Inc. and to bring to world attention some of the wonderful work that Sheena is doing around the world in Tanzania and here in the United States. I am also the Associate Director of the Pan-American Pan-African Association, and our organization has supported Sheena Inc. for over 10 years. So we're very familiar with all the work that they've done and have admired the founders of Sheena Inc. for many, many years.
Could you tell us a little bit about how Sheena was founded and who's involved and what you do?
Sure. Sheena was founded in 2002 in Maryland, and it was founded by a group of African women who, primarily from Tanzania. There were also women from Kenya and from other parts of Africa, but they were women that wanted to give back to the community. They wanted to share all the riches that they had enjoyed here in America while they had made a life and very successful careers here in the U.S. And they wanted to give back to their home country and uplift the women that were that are in Tanzania. So when we met the founders of Sheena Inc., which is Jessica Mushala and Amos Mushala, we were very, very inspired, not only by their courage, but because they were so generous in everything that they did. Sheena itself is an acronym for Send Hope, Inspire, Nourish, and Access Skills. And it also is a term that is a Swahili word that refers to a root. So anybody that understands Swahili knows that Sheena is an organization that is there to stay in Tanzania and is rooted in the community and is committed to helping people in the grassroots areas.
I understand that Sheena is involved in many different types of projects, health and spousal issues and education. Could you tell us a little bit about the types of things that Sheena does and maybe some of its accomplishments?
Sure. Well, Sheena has really been in the forefront of the struggle against violence against women. And they have held seminars in Tanzania, bringing not only women together, but also men, because it is a community problem that has to be addressed. And our organization, the Pan-American Pan-African Association, has worked very closely with Sheena in that field because we are an NGO in consultative status with the Economic and Social Council at the United Nations. And every year Sheena Inc., the members of Sheena, myself as a board member, and as part of our organization, we attend the Commission on the Status of Women. And over the last few years, we've had presentations at the UN to bring to global attention the plight of women in Tanzania who are affected by violence. And it's not only violence that's perpetuated by men, but it's actually violence that's perpetuated by women on women. And so one of the major issues that we addressed is the cultural impact, the impact that culture has on violence against women. And it's actually the aberration of culture that causes many of these terrible atrocities to be accepted within the community.
Can you give us an idea of the type of thing that Sheena has done maybe in Tanzania to help women in these unfortunate situations?
Certainly, yeah. Just one example, and it's a very tragic example. During one of the presentations that we had at the UN, there was a young woman whose husband had recently passed away, and in the cultural, under the cultural norms, unfortunately, it's the widow that is blamed for the death of the husband. And because of that, when this lady whose husband had died here in America, and she had actually been living here in America, she returned to Tanzania and she was shunned. And she was also forced to return all the belongings that the husband had, or that they had jointly, but because he had passed away, his family wanted it all back. And so she was able to go to court in Tanzania. So you actually have a dual court system where you have the national court system and you have the local court systems, or the tribal court systems, where you have some of these cultural norms that perpetuate this kind of violence. So part of Sheena's role was to publicize this situation with this young woman, and finally it was resolved on her behalf, where she was able to overcome the whole situation. So,
does Sheena operate throughout the country or in the major cities?
One of the focuses of Sheena is to reach out to areas that are underserved. So you have grassroots communities that very often get overlooked by the major corporate donors or by the major funding organizations. And so that's really their focus, is to work with communities that are overlooked. They also, for example, they may help build a church, or they may help build a school that's associated with a church. But at the same time, they reach out to the very multicultural community in Tanzania, because Tanzania also has a very large Muslim community. And so they reach out beyond, to cross cultural gaps and religious affiliations. So they're very much involved in reaching women wherever they are.
Does Sheena operate in any other countries besides Tanzania?
They do have some projects in Kenya, and they have received requests from Cameroon and other surrounding countries that want to have a Sheena type of organization in their countries. But they also work here in the U.S. So here in the U.S., they basically have outreach programs for youth. And it's also focused on the children of immigrants from Tanzania who come here and who basically are concerned about preserving their ties to their home country. So Sheena is concerned about providing them a sense of confidence, a sense of self-respect. And so that's one of the things that they try to instill in the young people that are here in the United States.
We have a few minutes left. Can you give us an idea of what the current or future plans are in the next few years?
Yeah, absolutely. We're jointly working right now with Sheena in providing what are called blankets that will repel insects that are disease-borne, or insects that spread disease. And in that venue, we are working with SAM very closely with a company that has a special kind of fabric that it can repel mosquitoes. And in that sense, we're working with the United Nations High Commission for Refugees in Tanzania to make these blankets available to them to basically save people from malaria. So hopefully that's one of the major projects that we're going to be working on together.
Well, that sounds fascinating. Can you, in the 2 minutes we have left, can you give us an idea how Sheena is funded?
Sheena is funded through donations, basically. And anybody that donates to Sheena will know that at least 97% of the money that they donate is going to go to the projects. The founders of Sheena, Jessica Mushala and Amos Mushala, are extremely generous. They have basically shared their own treasure to make these projects available. And wherever the need comes up, they're the first to step up to the plate and make sure that the financial needs are fulfilled with the people that they serve. So we also have a yearly fundraiser that is coming up in October, a gala dinner. So you can go on to sheenainc.org and make a donation, and also sign up for the gala dinner that's going to be taking place on October 16th. And it's also going to be taking place in conjunction with a conference that Sheena's organizing to help women to not only deal with violence against women, but also to empower them economically.
So can anyone, let's say some of our viewers, come and attend the conference?
Absolutely, absolutely. We would very much welcome anybody that is interested in supporting this wonderful cause. And please do. Please visit our website, sheenainc.org.
Well, Lisa Polgar, board member of Sheena Inc., thank you so much for joining me today and telling us about a fascinating organization in East Africa, in Tanzania. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Art, a universal language, an expression of culture, of self. And now, thanks to Empowered Women International, a way for emerging and established immigrant and refugee artists and artisans to find hope to earn a living while enriching the lives of all of us. Empowered Women International, making a better America every day. For more information on Empowered Women International's educational programs, or to make a tax-free donation, contact cfripp@aol.com.
Here, kitty, kitty. Here, kitty, kitty, kitty. Here, kitty, kitty.
You'd think it would be easy to tell which kids have trouble with their eyesight. But that's not always the case. Even though 1 in 4 children may have a vision problem, eye doctors tell us the symptoms aren't always so obvious. We do know that 80% of all childhood learning is visual. And without good vision, kids can have trouble learning to read and may fall behind in school. For clues on how to spot the real-life signs of childhood vision problems, and what parents can do, visit checkyearly.com. A public service message from the Vision Council of America and Reading is Fundamental.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Children's Medical Ministries that has donated a bunch of wheelchairs.
Hello, and welcome to Emerald Planet. My name is William Busker. I am Executive Vice President for Emerald Planet, and I work with Dr. Sam Hancock, who is in the East African country of Tanzania. And we've had a little bit of difficulty in our transmission, so I'm substituting for him, and I'm happy in the studio. And if we are able to get Dr. Sam, we will certainly cut over to him. But in the meantime, I have the pleasure of introducing Lisa Polgar, who works as a board member for a fascinating organization called Sheena, which operates both here in the U.S. and in Tanzania. So welcome, Lisa.
Great, thank you.
Great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm glad to be pinch hitting here for Sam, for Dr. Sam, as he's known by so many, and to support the wonderful work that he's doing in promoting sustainable development all over the world. And so we can do our little piece. We can help a little bit in filling in for him today while he's in Tanzania, and I'm sure it's after midnight there.
Well, it's great to have you. And could you tell us a little bit how you got involved with Sheena and what else that you do?
Sure. I work, I also, besides being a member of the board of directors of Sheena, I'm also associate director of the Pan American Pan African Association, and we have collaborated for many years, for over 10 years. And the chairman of our organization is Robert Pritchard, and he was one of the first African American pianists, concert pianists of classical music. And but besides his talent as a musician, he also has been a great humanitarian. So he's really the one who spearheaded our support of Sheena. He realized the great potential that Sheena has in reaching out to so many people in Tanzania as well as people here in the United States. And so we've been collaborating, as I said, for over 10 years. And what struck us the most was really the generosity of Jessica Mushala and Amos Mushala, who are the founders of Sheena Inc. And they don't hesitate, they don't blink to be able to help and to reach out and give not only financially, but they give great amounts of time to promoting the cause that Sheena stands for.
Well, could you tell us a little bit about Sheena as an organization? And perhaps mention some of its major projects?
Sure. Sheena stands for, is a Swahili word actually, and Sheena means root, or also it means the trunk of a tree. And so it's a solid organization. It has deep roots in Tanzania, and it works primarily in the grassroots areas, in the areas that are normally not served through some of the major donors. And it works on a case-by-case basis in assisting primarily women and the girl child. One of the major projects that they have is the micro grants that they provide to women. And these are grants that are given without the expectation of the money being returned to Sheena. They are actual grants. And the women that receive these grants, that are beneficiaries, are in the area of setting up handicraft businesses or farming, agriculture projects that they have. And instead of giving the money back to Sheena, they have a 3-year period in which they can develop their trade, develop their business, and give back to their community. As the UN has often said throughout the years that they've supported women projects because we're a UN organization, UN NGO in consultative status with ECOSOC. And as the UN has always stated that when you help women, when you promote the welfare of women, you help the entire community. That women will reach out to bring other women into the fold and help the community economically.
Is there a way that women in Tanzania hear about Sheena? Are you well known?
Yeah, Sheena is very well known primarily in the outer areas. They work, as I mentioned, they don't work in the cities. They work more at the grassroots level in the back countries that are not well served through other organizations. They also have some projects in Pemba, which is part of Zanzibar, and so they reach out beyond the cultural limitations, let's say, of some organizations that only serve the Christian community. They reach out towards the Muslim community, towards any community where the women are in need. And in Pemba, primarily, they have a wonderful program where they give micro grants to women to start their businesses. That's one of their focus areas.
Do you have any idea how many grants Sheena has granted in its 10 years?
Well, I know they have served probably at least 3,000 or 4,000 women, and they also help orphans that are affected by HIV or AIDS, who have lost their parents to HIV and AIDS. And so there have been thousands of orphans that have been served. They've set up orphanages, and it's really a community, an organization that tries to reach as a diversified community as possible.
Well, that's fascinating. What other types of projects is Sheena engaged in?
Another project that they've done, as I mentioned, they do help orphans. One of the major problems that many of these communities have is how to address the needs of people that are handicapped. In many of the communities, if you have a handicapped child, you're shunned, or because you may be blamed because the child is handicapped. So the handicapped child will be hidden, will be confined to a very small area for most of their lives. Sheena was able to get the assistance from the children's medical ministries, where they're able to donate 400 wheelchairs to handicapped children that had never been off the floor, and they finally sat up in these chairs, and they were sitting tall, and finally able to see what everybody else is seeing.
You mentioned that Sheena is U.S. based and was founded by a Tanzanian couple. What are some of the projects that Sheena engages in here in the U.S.? One
of the, I think the focuses that they have here in the U.S. is promoting the cultural exchange between Tanzania and the United States and vice versa. They've been working with the Taratibu Youth Association, which is a wonderful dance association, dance group in Maryland, and that teaches young women African dance, and they've been performing all over the world. Actually, they've been to South Africa and to many other parts of the world. And the Taratibu Youth Association, they had a project where they wanted to do something for their counterpart youth in Tanzania, and they collected shoes, and they donated thousands of shoes to children in Tanzania that basically were walking around in their bare feet. So it not only taught them how to reach out to another community outside of their own comfort zone, but to also appreciate the values that are instilled in Tanzania and the Tanzanian children of respect for adults and so on and so forth. So it was a wonderful cultural exchange experience.
How is Sheena funded? You must have needs of donations by our viewers, or could you give us an idea of how you support the organization?
Yes, well, Sheena basically is supported by donors. So the more generous a donor can be, the better. And so right now, they're organizing an event in October. Is their big gala dinner where they invite donors to come and be able to contribute to the projects that Sheena has. And they also have a conference at the same time, where they will be bringing African women here to the United States to basically learn some of the skills, the empowering skills, the economic empowerment skills that Sheena is able to provide them. So, but if anybody's interested in donating, they can go onto the Sheena website, which is sheenainc.org, and make a donation there. I think I mentioned before, 97%, at least 97% of any donation goes directly to the projects. So if you are going to be donating money, you know that your money is going to go build a sanitation area, or a bathroom, or a school, or put a roof on an orphanage. So you know specifically that your money is going to be used for the projects themselves.
We just have about a minute left. Can you give us an idea of what Sheena is thinking about in the near future?
Well, basically, it's expanding their scope, not only in Tanzania, but here in the United States, and working with youth here to give them a sense of self-respect and a sense of self-worth. I think they do a lot of that in this country. And in Tanzania, they're also working more recently in giving seminars to young business women in Tanzania who would normally not be encouraged to pursue a career in business. And one of the last trips that Jessica Mushala made in conjunction with other board members is to provide training to businesswomen, Tanzanian businesswomen, that they can succeed and that they have the potential to become successful businesswomen.
Well, that sounds terrific. We're delighted to have Lisa Polgar, a board member for Sheena, and in her own right, an executive at the Pan-American Pan-African Association. My name is William Busker. Delighted to have you with us today, and we look forward to having you join us on an upcoming
Saving for retirement might be easy for some folk, but for others, it might take a little more work. And for those who haven't started, there are still things you can do to catch up.
Oh, that is good news.
Like getting out from underneath past debt. And don't get wrapped up with high-interest credit cards.
Get you some eyes.
Be diversified with your investments. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Your financial goals are not out of reach. The choice is clear. For a happy ending, choose to save.
Everyone with alcohol and drug addiction is in the same boat. With treatment, you can find solid ground. For drug and alcohol information and treatment referral for you or someone you know, call 1-800-662-HELP.
Dude, are you sure you want this tattoo? Because just do it.
Some mistakes in life are permanent. Like hearing loss. To learn how to protect your hearing, visit asha.org.
You've probably heard about heart disease, but did you know that it's the #1 killer of women nationwide? Heart disease claims more lives each year than breast cancer, lung cancer, or strokes combined. But there are steps you can take to protect yourself against it. For more information on how you can prevent heart disease, contact your local American Heart Association or visit their website at www.americanheart.org.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello, my name is William Busker. I'm Executive Vice President of Emerald Planet, and I work with Dr. Sam Hancock, our Executive Director and founder, who is in the African country of Tanzania. And we've had a little bit of difficulty with our transmission, so I'm here in the studio, and I'm lucky to be joined by two guests, Lisa Polgar and Henry Polgar, who are executives with the Pan-American, Pan-African Association, and who are both engaged with a Tanzanian organization called SHINA. So we welcome Henry and Lisa.
Thank you for having us.
Delighted to have you both here.
Thank you.
Sam may cut in here.
That would be great.
But in the meantime, it's delightful to have you. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the Pan-American, Pan-African Association and its relationship to SHINA and Emerald Planet.
Sure thing. Yes, thank you for inviting us. And the Pan-American, Pan-African Association, we call it the PAPA, and it's been in existence for almost about 50 years. And as Lisa mentioned, it's a non-governmental organization with consultative status at the United Nations. So we're very much devoted and very much interested in supporting the ideas and the aspirations of the UN. And one of them has to do with this concept of sustainable development. And historically, the idea of sustainable development, it was created with the UN language is that they created 3 pillars of sustainable development having to do with economic development, environmental protection, and also supporting social equity. And if you created societies that had these 3 sustaining pillars, then you would be able to sustain the planet for generations, to come. And so, but what happened in recent years, in the last 10 or 12 years, there are groups like ours that promoted the idea of cultural vitality as being a 4th pillar of sustainable development. And only if you had that, I guess Lisa maybe explained some of this already, only if you had that 4th pillar to bolster all the others is really the way our planet is going to flourish and continue. So that's that's really the major thrust of what we're devoted to, and we collaborate with with organizations like Emerald Planet, which is a great organization, and Dr. Hancock, he's our UN NGO representative at the UN, so he's very active there, representing not only the Pan-American, Pan-African Association, but also representing Emerald Planet. And SHINA, similarly, we've created this network, and so we collaborate together in different projects. And this is where it's converged in Tanzania, where actually it was Lisa who coordinated all of this, where Dr. Hancock and Mrs. Mushala, she's already obviously very well established there, but where our 3 organizations coordinated together to collaborate in Tanzania.
Lisa, you're on the board of SHINA.
Yes, I am.
Could you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, SHINA is a nonprofit organization. It's been around since 2002, and we've been associated with SHINA since 2004. We've participated in all their annual fundraising events, and very successful fundraising events. But we've also basically believed in the concept of cultural exchange. And the more that we get to know each other across cultural lines, if we reach out across the seas, then we're going to have a happier planet. We're going to have less wars, and we're going to have better understanding between people. And that's really one of the concepts that Sheena embraces, is the concept that we can reach out across the seas and support each other. With the programs that Sheena fosters in the area of youth exchange, basically exposing American youth to youth in Tanzania and how similar they are, and also in a sense how different they are, but to learn to accept the differences and to respect each other. And also they've promoted such exchange programs as the bringing over the Bukoba Choir, which is a Lutheran choir, and the Bukoba Choir sings Christian music, but in a very traditional African way, beautiful music with African instrumentation, and they've toured all over the United States. So our organization has sponsored the director of the Bukoba Choir to basically go back to music school and to learn the skills of being a choir director. So, so we've been very happy to be associated with Sheena all these years and supported all the things that they've done.
You mentioned youth exchanges. Do the students stay in homes when they visit each other's countries, or?
Yeah, I think one of the emphasis that Sheena has when they take the young people, and not only the young people, but anybody, and I'm sure Sam is the beneficiary of the great hospitality of Sheena Inc. in their communities that they serve. And so I'm looking forward to visiting Tanzania. We're looking forward to visiting Tanzania next year and really seeing close hand the work that they do in the villages and out in the grassroots areas. Mm-hmm.
Now, you mentioned that Sheena is engaged in different types of projects. Obviously, cultural exchange is a major one. Mm-hmm. Are there others that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, well, they also provide stipends for students. Americans are not aware that $50 can help a child get an education for a whole year. It doesn't take much. And so that's one of their focus, is to provide education. The founder of Sheena, Jessica Mushala, she was the beneficiary of education. It was because of her mother who felt the commitment to educate her daughters. Jessica was the seventh of the daughters in her family. And in many of the communities, it's the boys that get an education. The girls are not allowed to go to school. But the mother, basically, she went against the cultural norms and was determined to have her children educated. So Jessica Mushala, that's her goal too, is to give back to her community and to allow young girls to benefit. Like
Jim, can you hear me?
So you mentioned that Sheena
Jim,
raises money for scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have an idea of how many scholarships are granted on an annual basis?
Well, over the years, they've served a couple of thousand of young girls. And so it's a ripple effect. You know, even though you may only be helping one child, but that helps to uplift the whole community. So you really can't count it in terms of numbers, but you have to look at it in terms of the effect on an entire community. Mm-hmm.
Now, Henry, you mentioned that you're engaged at the UN yes. And that Emerald Planet and the Pan-American Pan-African Association work closely together. What are some of the issues that you're working on currently?
Well, our major issue is, as I mentioned before, has to do with promoting cultural exchange, and one of the examples is a dramatic example, and it is an example that dates us, but the founder of our organization, Dr. Robert Pritchard, whom Lisa mentioned, was a very well-known pianist. He was, years ago, a pioneer in this whole area of cultural exchange. And what I traveled with him throughout different African countries where he was supportive of the African liberation movements. And it was a dramatic example to show how cultural exchange even has very dramatic political ramifications, because as a concert artist where he gave benefit concerts, and I'm a pianist too, but he was the star, where we gave benefit concerts in support of the families of freedom fighters these families were totally neglected, and Sheena coincidentally currently helps the children of families of former freedom fighter families. So it's all intertwined. And during our tours in support of these liberation movements, we would meet leaders, the African leadership, and it was a very dramatic effect it had in terms of winning friends for our country here, because historically the U.S. has not been in the forefront of making friends in Africa. That's changing, obviously. It's changed over the years. But this whole idea of promoting cultural exchange, of people getting to know one another, that's really our major thrust. And we're trying, we make an effort to do that through the different UN agencies, UNESCO and other organizations as well.
Great. Now you mentioned children as being obviously a major focal point for Sheena. Are there other types of projects that Sheena is working on that benefit children?
Well, essentially, when you uplift the women in the community, you're also uplifting the children. And women are the teachers. Basically, women are the nurturers. They're the ones that are giving the first education to a child. So when you inspire a woman to fulfill her potential, you're also influencing the next generation. And so that's a great commitment of Sheena. Basically, one of the major issues that are faced in the outer communities is the fact that the cultural practices promote violence against women. And so when you have women that are standing up for themselves, and you also get the men involved in the community to support women who are standing up for themselves, then it has a ripple effect with the children.
Thank you, Henry Polgar and Lisa Polgar. It's a pleasure to have you here.
I need a job.
Necesito trabajo.
I would like to speak English better.
Me gustaría hablar inglés mejor.
I want to be a U.S. citizen.
Quisiera ser ciudadano de los Estados Unidos.
For over 35 years,
Por más de 35 años,
the Hispanic Committee of Virginia has been serving our community.
el Comité Hispano de Virginia ha estado sirviendo a nuestra comunidad.
Job training and placement,
Capacitación, ayuda para conseguir trabajo,
education for children and adults,
educación para niños y adultos,
immigration, naturalization, and medical referrals.
ayuda para los procesos de inmigración y naturalización y orientación sobre médicos
Are a small part of what we do.
son solo una pequeña parte de lo que hacemos.
For help, information, or to volunteer,
Para ayuda, información o para ofrecerse como voluntario,
contact the Hispanic Committee of Virginia,
comuníquese con el Comité Hispano de Virginia,
helping everyone participate more fully in American society.
ayudando a todos a participar plenamente en la sociedad norteamericana.
Hey, Lena, where's yours?
Would you notice if you were missing half your kidney function According to the National Kidney Foundation, 20 million people have chronic kidney disease, and 20 million more may be at risk and not even know it. Anyone with high blood pressure, diabetes, or family history of chronic kidney disease is at risk. Early diagnosis is vitally important. To get the whole story, talk to your doctor and visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org or call for a free brochure. Because when it comes to chronic kidney disease, you might not know the half.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello, my name is William Busker. I'm Executive Vice President of Emerald Planet, and I work with Dr. Sam Hancock, our Executive Director and Founder, who is in the African country of Tanzania. And we've had a little problems with our transmission, so I am pleased to be here in the studio in the greater Washington area with Lisa Polgar and Henry Polgar. Both of them are executives at the Pan-African Association, and Lisa serves on the board of SHINA, an organization that works closely in Tanzania, where Dr. Sam is visiting. Welcome. Great to have you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Would you be able to give us a little idea about the Pan-African Association and how it connects with SHINA and Emerald Planet?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we call it the PAPA, the Pan-African Association, is a United Nations non-governmental organization. And we've been collaborating with Dr. Hancock and the Emerald Planet and the SHINA organization for quite a number of years in various projects. And in particular, at this point where, as you mentioned, that Dr. Sam is in Tanzania with Mrs. Jessica Mushala. He was invited there by her organization in Tanzania, where they're collaborating on different projects. One in particular has to do with a product, it's a insect repellent blanket, and they're in the process, they're going to be meeting with the United Nations Commission on Refugees in Tanzania in the hope to be able to give this sample of a blanket in the hope that it will serve a purpose in the refugee camps in Tanzania. Tanzania has a very large refugee population from neighboring countries, from the Congo, from Rwanda, from Burundi, and there are hundreds of thousands of people in these camps, and they need help. The blanket is a product that was brought to the attention of Dr. Hancock, and it's supposed to be a wonderful product that would help alleviate the suffering that people suffer from malaria, mosquitoes, and other insects. And so that's one of the major purposes of their trip at this particular time.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa, could you elaborate a little bit on SHINA and maybe talk about its role with the blanket? Mm-hmm. What a wonderful development there.
Yes, well, we're very excited that this great opportunity was brought to the attention of SHINA Inc. by Dr. Sam Hancock. He's the one who really introduced them to the availability of this blanket, and it's a blanket that's been treated in such a way that it will not only repel mosquitoes, but it will also kill mosquitoes on impact, so on contact. So it's going to be saving a lot of lives and preventing the spread of malaria. Our association with SHINA goes back so many years, over 10 years, and there are always new projects that we're working on, and this has been one of the more recent focuses that we have, because malaria is not only affecting the refugee population, but it affects millions of people in Tanzania. So we hope that we can make an impact in that way to help prevent the spread of malaria.
Do you have any idea how many people are being helped?
Well, perhaps you can speak on that in terms of
as I mentioned before,
number
that
of refugees.
That in Tanzania, it's one of the countries that have helped a great deal the refugee population in Africa, and there are hundreds of thousands of refugees from the countries of Rwanda, Burundi, the Congo, and I don't know if there's some other countries. So these are huge camps, 60, 70, 80,000 people. And some of them have been there for many, many years. Tanzania just recently granted citizenship to 30,000 people from Burundi who were there stateless over all those years and finally granted them citizenship. And so the blanket, if the UN, we were instrumental in bringing together Sheena, Dr. Hancock with the UN Refugee Commission, and they're going to be meeting, perhaps they already have or they will be in July 1st. And if the UN Refugee Commission deems that this blanket is something that they can use, then our organization and others are pledged to find donors to contribute these blankets in large numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's terrific.
Yeah.
Now, I know from my reading and from talking to you that Sheena is particularly focused on women's issues in Tanzania.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if you might be able to elaborate a little bit more on that.
Well, to give you an example, one of the first recipients of the help that Sheena was able to give was to a young woman who had just lost her husband. And because of that, she had, basically she was living underneath this banana tree. She had 2 children, and she had been kicked out of her community because her husband had died. It was actually her fault that they blamed her for her husband's death. And so Sheena was able to give a scholarship to one of the children, and now the child is grown and has received a degree in the field of hospitality, and he's built a house for his mother with the help of Sheena. And so these would be people that would be ignored by the wider community and basically would be left to die. Mm-hmm. So that's one example of how Sheena has been able to reach out to not only women but entire communities. And one of the major focus is to educate women on their rights, on the fact that they do have the right to stand up for themselves, and they don't have to accept abuse either from other women that are some of the worst perpetrators of violence against women, but also the men. So.
Now, I know that Sheena helps women with businesses. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, they've had a 95% success rate with providing micro grants to women. You would think that if you're going to be giving money away to anybody, that they're going to squander it. But in these particular situations, the women use the money to create their own businesses. They either have skills in handicraft or agriculture or various different fields, and they're able to develop their own businesses and become independent and self-reliant, and instead of giving back the money to Sheena, they give forward. So that's one of the major.
And then Mrs. Mushala, who's the president of Sheena, I remember her telling a story recently where she really attempts to practicalize the whole creating a network of being able to help people. And she gave this example once, so she's saying that these larger organizations where you ask for a donation of a SUV, these SUV NGOs are notorious for having all these SUVs, and she was saying that it's easier to get a donation of an SUV than if you approached an organization and asked them to donate 2 or 3 motorcycles. And the motorcycles would serve a greater practicality. So this is the kind of approach, a more direct approach, a more down-to-earth approach that she's trying to create with her own network, Sheena Network.
Now, I know that Sheena operates also in the United States and,
yes, it does.
and some other countries. What are some of the programs that are serving U.S. citizens?
Some of the youth that are being served by Sheena are the children of Tanzanian immigrants. So many of the young children come to the U.S. or they're born here in the U.S. and they lose touch with their heritage, or they lose touch with the culture from whence they came. And basically, Sheena has felt that it's very, very important to preserve the culture that Tanzanian children come from, to give them a sense of who they are, to give them a sense of pride in their own cultural heritage. So that's one of the components. They also have programs where they help young women to start their own businesses or to learn skills so that they can be employable, and using some of the techniques like Dress for Success, basically giving women tools so that they can be self-sufficient.
Does Sheena operate in any other countries in Africa in addition to Tanzania?
It's mostly Tanzania, but they also have affiliate organizations in Kenya and in Cameroon. There are some affiliates that work there. But they primarily focus in Tanzania. They're also getting requests from all over the world. The Philippines has recently requested that they establish a Sheena organization there, and because they admire the ability or the capability of Sheena to inspire women.
In the I don't know. In the time that we have left, can you give us a sense of what you're thinking about for the future?
Well, we encourage everybody, all our listeners, to log into the Sheena Inc. website and press the donate button. It's a very simple thing to do. Or you can come join us October 16th and 17th. There's going to be a conference where women from Tanzania will be coming here, and we will have a wonderful gala dinner, fundraising dinner.
Henry and Lisa, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Good night.